It is the appointed hour, so I am happy to call our meeting to order. Thanks, everybody, for joining us. And while Jeffrey gets ready to take the roll, I would ask everybody to keep their Zoom calls on mute unless there's something that you need to say, in which case unmute yourself. But if you would please, for the sake of our meeting, keep your mics on mute until we get to that section. So Jeffrey, if you would, please take the roll.
Sure, John. Michael
Thank
Badger,
Here.
Without the release.
Ron Bennett, Mr. Bennett,
Here.
there he is.
Thank you.
Mark Blue,
Here.
Ron Chapin,
Here.
Darby Fishkin,
Here.
Kathy Grimm, Sharon Hansen,
Here.
Michael Hoffert,
Here.
Jim Lewicki, Chris O'Brien,
Here.
Bill Pauley, Jennifer Persco,
Here.
Jack Quinn,
I'm here.
Gino Russi,
Here.
and Mike Seaman.
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much, Jeffrey.
You're
So
welcome.
before I ask for the approval of the minutes, I want to take just a moment to welcome a brand new board member to our meeting today, Reverend Mark Blue. We were informed the other day by the governor has been appointed to our board. Reverend Blue, we're thrilled to have you with us. Thank you for your willingness to serve, and we look forward to working with you on any number of projects. So welcome, and thank you for your service as well. As some of you may know, Reverend Blue is also a veteran of the United States Air Force. So Reverend, thank you for joining us. Also, Ron Bennett was reappointed by the governor. Ron, thank you for your service. And I want to make a point of congratulating Congressman Quinn. Some of you saw in the newspaper today that Congressman Quinn was been appointed to the national board of the Michael J. Fox Foundation. And Congressman has taken on his challenge with Parkinson's disease and has really made changed the lives of so many people. So Jack, congratulations from all of us. And
Thank you, John. Thanks very much.
Godspeed on the work that you are doing. So
Thank you.
Reverend Blue, thank you. Reverend Blue, welcome.
Thank you.
Ron, welcome back. And we're continuing. And certainly, Jack, congratulations. So with that, unless there are any additions, deletions, or corrections to our minutes, we'll accept them as approved. Are there any? Thank you. And we'll go right to our presentation. Peter Cutler, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and good evening, everyone. Good afternoon, I should say. As many of you know, May is National Mental Health Awareness Month and National Trauma Awareness Month. And we decided a while ago that we would try to commemorate these important this important recognition of these services certainly provided here at ECMC by developing some videos of patients and their caregivers, similar to what we've done in the past. So you might recall when we opened the new emergency department, we did a similar type of effort. And in this regard, we chose, or we were fortunate to have 3 trauma patients that agreed to participate, and also 3 behavioral health patients that agreed to participate. We're working as we speak on finalizing all of the videos, but we have a couple of them done, and we're going to show you 2 of them now. The first is of a young man from Grand Island, New York. Ben Richard was his name, who was involved in a serious car accident that you may have heard about, and you may even recall the story. I won't divulge more than that, then just the video will speak for itself. I do also, before we start, I just want to give some recognition to Stacy Roeder from the foundation and Matt Gould, who has provided us exemplary videographic services throughout the course of the pandemic. They both were very instrumental in this overall effort, as well as leaders in the service lines that are featured. And I want to thank all of them for their participation. And with that, Jeffra, let's roll the first video.
The only thing I remember of the crash, like the actual crash, is we went sideways and I just said, "Oh shoot," but not "oh shoot." And then it kind of is black until Vincenzo was screaming at me at the side of the road, "Wake up, wake up, wake up." He thought I was dead.
His spine was almost completely transected, the cord. Alarming, and it was because it was sheared basically from where he broke it, and so it was basically pinching the cord. So the question was, how fast could we get him to the OR to try to stabilize?
The moment that I came in, I touched his shoulder, and then he looked at me, and the emotion on his face about him being scared and thankful that I was there, and he was scared, and as we all were, but he was in good hands. There's no doubt about it.
Well, actually, first they just stitched up my face, and then I think they did my spine. So they put, I think it was like 2 rods and 8 screws and plates and stuff in my back. And then they did my shoulder, and the doctor said it was the hardest surgery he's ever done. So the only thing holding my arm on was skin, because I broke it, dislocated it, and tore every ligament off my shoulder. He said he went in there and my shoulder, bone, was just bare. My nose was totally busted and my face was split open, and actually Vincenzo said to me, "I never want to see all the way up your nose ever again," because this whole thing was split open like that, and you could just see my entire nostril but opened up.
For someone in his age group, psychologically, it's tough, because the worst thing he may have had prior to this was strep throat or a broken arm, 6 weeks in a cast, you move on. These type of things are, they linger.
Meeting the ambulance drivers and knowing that they had to assess the situation, and obviously it can't be easy going upon a scene like that.
How you doing, guys? Good, how you doing? Good. I had the shirt on that I really liked. I got it as a Rocky Richard jersey, and I got it in the Hockey Hall of Fame a few years ago with one of my buddies. And I was like, "Don't you dare cut this shirt. Don't cut this shirt. I swear to God, if you cut this shirt." And they cut it off, and I was swearing at them, and I was cussing at them, and they just kept doing their job. I'd just like to say thank you for putting up with my annoying yells at you.
Believe me, see worse.
And, just really taking care of me and, getting me to this point, and I really appreciate that. It's nice to finally say thank you to you guys.
It's special. You lose track of the patients. We don't always see what goes on afterwards. It's special, especially seeing him. He looks great. I was expecting to see worse than that.
you know, that just shows not only the professionalism to try to assess and, you know, do what's right for my son, but, you know, the caring is also there, which was, you know, quite impressive.
Dr. Levecki up on the MRU, he pulled every string he could to get me a day pass to be able to leave. And because this was still when there was no visitors, we couldn't even go outside, and he pulled every string he could and got me a day pass to leave the hospital and go to graduation. And I graduated with my grandfather, who left high school to go fight in World War II. He was in the 11th Airborne, and to graduate with him, I didn't want to miss it. And you know, I might not have had the best face on the whole time because I was just in a lot of pain while I was there, but I just made the most of it. And to see all my friends again, because you know, visiting was still so limited, to see all my friends again there, it was awesome.
Yeah, it was just maybe a brief shining moment of normalcy for a young man that worked. You know, it's a big moment in most people's lives, the high school graduation. It's a seminal event. It marks time, and for him not to have been able to do that, I think would have probably been a negative factor in recovery. So I'm glad that worked out for him.
And then he started after that point. I think that gave him a little confidence booster, and then I think after that point he started doing better and better. And then shortly after, he was ready, physically ready to go home. You know, it's a real supportive family, and that helps.
A lot. I think, you know, patients do better the more motivated they are. You know, he loves working out. He was an athlete prior to his injury, played hockey, so he wants to work hard. You know, he gives it 110% when he's in therapy with us. And he's a great guy. He's very motivated. He, you know, has a great support system, his parents, his girlfriend, his best friend. And he seems to have a great support system at ECMC. Like when we are walking around the halls, nurses are saying hi to him, doctors are saying hi to him.
How proud are you of him?
Didn't take me long there, did it? It's tough to describe. The fight that he has gone through, and the attitude that he's had. It's just, it's really unbelievable. Like, I could not do what he's done. I don't know if I could have done it when I was 18.
It's gonna be great, I think. I'm gonna get through it and hopefully just live a normal life again.
So if that wasn't profound enough, we have one more for you. It's hard to believe these stories, and yet we see them, we hear about them all the time, and it's hard to, I think, almost at times decide what could be more compelling and heart rending, and yet and also inspiring. But these individuals really exemplify what's great in the overall human spirit. And so now we'll show you a video that features Chris Martocci, who many of you are no doubt familiar with. Chris spoke at one of our last public events last, I believe, February, in the luncheon that we did hold at Klein's Music Hall, and to precede the annual Springfest, which of course was postponed. But Chris told his story there of his experiences here at ECMC, and he will share them again in this video.
I was in a really dark place. I felt like I just lost all hope. Brought me to this uncontrollable situation where I thought I was going to hurt myself.
A lot of people come in, and including Chris that day, not knowing exactly what that would mean.
I had no idea what to expect. I sat down and met with a social worker.
And it really, to talk about the options and just some hope that sometimes we resign ourselves that ending everything is the only way through a certain set of problems, but sometimes in that extra outside perspective can help reshape that for you.
I didn't know what to expect, but I didn't expect the degree of empathy that he showed to me. And the engaging questions that he asked me in the way that I started to open up.
We really want to put patients first. It's all about that we are all people and not just numbers and not just diagnoses. We want to get to know someone and be able to give them some information and treat them like they deserve to be treated and be individualized and trauma informed to say, you have a certain journey that has brought you here, but that is just part of who you are. We want to take that seriously and listen to you and not just herd you into the right kind of area without taking into account all the factors.
Dr. Park diagnosed me as bipolar, and that was a shock. I didn't know I was bipolar, you know? The only thing I ever heard about people who were bipolar was, you know, the awful ending, you know? They did something to themselves, or, you know. And finding that out was an absolute shock to the system. If I had just gotten that diagnosis and I didn't have that program, if I didn't have the PHP program, and I just had to go home and digest that I was bipolar, I don't know what I would have done. It probably wouldn't have been good. I would have felt more hopeless than I did before I came in here.
I work alongside the counselors in the partial hospitalization program Chris is talking about for more urgent type care that avoids inpatient, because it's sometimes just right there on the cusp of it being necessary. But if we can interrupt that and avoid people going into the emergency room and having an inpatient stay, that's so valuable. And I'm sure from your end as well, to be able to have that experience you just described versus being on an inpatient unit getting care, if that's an option, so much more valuable and effective.
You know, he made me believe in the possibility of me. I remember, you know, showing up the first day and, you know, like this classroom environment that they had with all these other people who were in the same situation. And I don't know what to say. I sort of, that feeling, that moment where I felt like I wasn't alone was a huge thing. There's no masking anything, no need to put on any sort of fake personality, you know, which is, I think, an issue for a lot of people, and, you know, that were in the position I was in. You never kind of feel comfortable in your own skin, and sort of finally be around all the other people who didn't feel comfortable in their own skin made me feel comfortable in my own skin. The help that I got was so significant and so life-changing, that I really feel like I owe ECMC, I owe those counselors, I owe that program a debt, you know, that I hope I can repay over time, you know, with my life, you know, how I live. For those people who are looking here for hope. Sorry. My whole life, what I have right now is because I truly believe because of this program. And if there's one piece of it that can help you see that your life is so significant and worth living, then please let me help you see that. Because I have two beautiful children. I have a beautiful wife that I get to experience now.
We don't always get to see where that leads people, and so it is very gratifying to have the positive outcome and to get the feedback on your end so that especially we can keep doing the same thing for other folks who come in and who need similar help.
I'm not going to say it's easy, but it's possible. I can deal with life on life's terms now. I couldn't do that before. And I don't believe I would have, I don't believe I would be at the point I'm at without this program. And just all I can say is just give it a day. Just give it a chance, just a crack. And if you follow the program, if you truly follow this program, there's a life for you beyond what you ever imagined. There really is.
So those are 2 of the 6 videos we have recorded and produced. What you see now on your screen are all 6 of the participants. The top 3 are trauma survivors, and the bottom 3 are behavioral health patients. It's been, as always, it's a truly gratifying project to work on, just to see the kinds of people that these people are, and the kind of and the caregivers who give them so much. It's always just so life affirming and reassuring. And so we wanted to share this with you. We intend to share these with the broader ECMC community. We're going to put them on social media. We're putting together a package to even package them all together in one presentation in a 30-minute special that we will buy airtime on local television soon. We will keep you apprised of when those dates will come for airing the broadcast. But it's been a great project. And again, I want to give credit to Stacy Roeder and Matt Gould, who have done tremendous work for us over these last 12 to 13 months, especially on projects like this. And of course, we thank these individuals for their courage and resilience, and our incredibly dedicated caregivers who do this every single day. So hope you enjoyed them.
I actually need somebody else to say something at this point.
Yeah, thank you, Peter. Obviously, we always, I know this board always, we've had patients speak, we've had employees speak, and, always keeps us grounded in what we're doing each and every single day, because as Peter said, these stories, happen on a daily basis here. And it's because of the unbelievable work and kindness, as we always talk about, of people here. So, so with that, John, do you want to move on to?
Tom, before you move on, I do want to tell Peter, thank you for selecting those individuals. And again, they show just how important ECMC is to the community, and that we should continue to strive to do better every day. And it's people and patients like that that make it all possible for us as an institution in the community to do better every day. And it's just a wonderful feeling. I told Reverend Blue a little while ago, it took a long time to get him on the board, but he'll find out it was worth waiting for, because we see a lot of things at ECMC that other people just talk about. They don't actually see it. So thank you, Peter, and thank you to those that participated.
Thank you, Sharon.
Peter, Mike Hofford here. I'd like to just extend my compliments as well. But, one thing I got from those 2 stories is they're wonderful new beginnings. And, that was the best. We talk about outcomes, and those were new beginnings, those outcomes. And they really were very heartfelt, very touching. Great job, Peter. Thanks again.
Thanks, Mike. Appreciate it.
It does make it, oh, sorry. I was just going to say that that really, things like that really do bring home the important work that the caregivers at ECMC do. And admittedly, it seems difficult to just move on to the business that we need to move on after having just experienced such moving stories. It's sort of, as with all things like that, life affirming and inspiring, kind of puts things in perspective. And it's understandably a little bit difficult to just kind of flip the switch and move on to the business at hand. Although I know we must, but that was very, very well done and very touching. Thanks, and John, I'm volunteering to move things forward if you want to tap out.
Thanks, Jen. I'm back. Thank you. And thanks everybody. Peter, obviously, words do actually fail me. There's an even happier ending on the Martocci story. Some of you, probably all of you, are aware of Chris's family. Judge Sal Martocci and Judge Amy Martocci, his father and sister, along with Chris, have been very supportive, not only in his going public with this, which has taken great courage, but as Tom, I think, will report, we have asked Chris to help us do some fundraising on behalf of that program that he went through. And we have been, at least to date, phenomenally successful, because Chris has been, as you saw, both very grateful and very appreciative about ECMC and that group and behavioral health saving his life. And we've raised, Tom, it probably is a good segue for me to turn it over to you at this point.
Okay, thanks, John. I know we have one more piece of business at hand before we go over to my presentation, right? With Dr. Cummings, and then we'll, in my presentation, we'll talk about the program a little bit.
Okay.
Unless you want me to do it now.
I'm all in. The resolutions on the medical dental staff, Dr. Cummings, if you would, please.
Thank you, John. Yeah, it's very easy thing today. We have for your consideration the minutes from yesterday's MedExec committee, as well as the credentials committee. We had 35 reappointments, 11 resignations, and 5 new appointments, but nothing further from there. And then just if I can indulge you for a moment, having got to watch Chris's video yesterday and participate in some of the longer filming that Peter referenced earlier, watching these things as a whole is why, this is the only hospital I've actually ever worked at, ever had credentials at, and why I intend to spend my entire career here at ECMC. So it was really gratifying to be able to see that.
Thank you, Michael. Motion been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Thanks, Jen. Further discussion? Any questions for Dr. Cummings? All in favor, please signify by saying aye or raising your hand.
Aye.
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, and thank you, Dr. Cummings. Dr. Quattrochi.
Okay, thank you, sir. Jeff, first I want to bring up my presentation. Thank you. As Jen said, after those videos, it's hard to follow with the business at hand, but obviously it makes us realize why the business at hand is so important to what we do. So I'd like to first talk about COVID. We have to date over 1,200 COVID patients. And our length of stay has gone down for those patients. The patients currently in-house is 27. That's down from about the mid-50s, I think, last time we spoke. So that's positive news that we're seeing less and less COVID patients. We've done a lot of testing of patients, and you can see how many, those are just negative tests that we had. And we have 86% of ECMC doctors and staff vaccinated. We've done a lot of vaccinations. The team has done a really, really good job. Casey Davis and others have done an amazing job of vaccinations. And I just want to thank Casey Davis and also Lucia Rossi, who really have led the effort, along with many others, and Andy Davis, making sure that not only our hospital community is vaccinated, but obviously our Western New York community. We also want to announce we received the hospital safety grade. So we're back on our way to A, and we are working very, very hard at that. Donna Jones has done a great job of bringing together many clinical folks to not only look at the clinical care we deliver, but making sure that we appropriately capture the care when we document and code for that care, so that we can make sure we're recognized appropriately for the things we do. They keep changing the metrics, they keep raising the bar, but we are following closely, and these scores lag a little bit. So the work we're doing now actually may not help us for many quarters to come, but it's obviously most importantly providing safe care for our patients, so which is our ultimate goal. So I just want to congratulate the team for reaching that, and as we've talked about, for public safety net hospitals, achieving these high scores is really a challenge because of the population that we serve, and the team just does a great job. So next slide. We have, as I talk about vaccination, we've done a lot of pop-up vaccination sites. Here is a list of them. We actually just were part of the governor's press conference around the NFTA effort. That was very, very successful, actually. The NFTA, as you know, gave away bus passes for vaccinations, and we've also done some other ones with some restaurants and breweries, and giving away some free beer for shots, as the county has done. And we're going to be working with John and Salem Field and the Toronto Blue Jays coming up in June here to help vaccinate at games. So again, these teams have been working very, very hard at making sure that we continue to play our part in the community at vaccinating Western New York. Next slide, Jeffrey. Thanks. Again, back to quality. This is our scores that we watched very, very carefully. I'm going to turn it over to Donna Jones, who's just going to briefly talk about where we're at with our quality scores and some of the efforts that we've been embarking on to make sure we continue to improve them. So go ahead, Donna.
Yeah, as evidenced by the two videos that we just watched, quality and patient safety remains a top priority. And these are just a few of the many metrics that we track on an ongoing basis to ensure that we are adopting best practices, as well as ensuring that we have efficient processes and workflows, and that we're certainly working together to make sure that we are aware of what we need to do and how we can do better. So what's shown on the screen there is just our CAUTIs, our catheter-associated urinary tract infections, our central line associated bloodstream infections, our C. difficile, and then a few of the patient safety indicators. These are complications that obviously we want to avoid our patients getting. So as always, we set goals for the year internally and do our best to achieve those goals. So we'll just continue to, like I said, monitor these, meet monthly, if not more than that, to evaluate our performance and to see where we have opportunities for improvement.
Okay, great. Thank you, Donna. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Okay, next slide. This is our patient experience, we now call human experience scores. We are facing, I think, the same issue that many hospitals across the United States are facing, in that you can see by the N up above, we have a lot less surveys being collected. This is kind of a phenomenon of COVID. I think less visitors has plays a part in this. Many times family members help fill those out. It's pretty common known practice that happens. So we're continuing to make people aware that they need to fill these out. We also get a lot of notes. I get them, nursing gets them, Andy gets them, others people get them, talking about the great care, and then people don't fill out the surveys. So we're trying to make sure people understand how important this is, and we'll continue to do obviously a lot of efforts to make sure we improve upon them. So next slide. We had our Human Experience Month celebration. I'm not going to read all this, but we did a lot of things for our patients and for our employees and our caregivers to make sure that we know how much we appreciate them. But obviously we want to let them know that what they do and the human experience that they give to our patients is so important, and we just witnessed that today in the video. So next slide. Under culture, again, back to Mental Health Awareness Month, just some virtual presentations that we did, and you can see some of the programming that we did. I guess this is a good place for me to mention what John was referencing before, which was the fact that the Martocci family has helped us get grants from 3 major foundations that'll be publicly announced sometime this week, and to start what's called an intensive outpatient program. And that program is kind of, you heard about the partial program that Chris Martocci went through, which is about a 6-hour-a-day program. This is an outpatient program in which it's more than maybe once a week, in which it's an intense kind of outpatient meeting of therapists, counselors, and psychiatrists to make sure there's kind of a step down from either an inpatient stay, if somebody doesn't have to go to partial after that, or a partial stay that they don't have to. They have actually a lot of meetings after that, because a lot of times individuals have a hard time either getting in to see somebody on a regular basis, or it just takes a long period of time. So this will kind of be a bridge for those patients who need that immediate support. And Chris talked about the fact that he didn't have that program after he came out of partial, and he said I really needed to meet with somebody more than once a week. So they were very passionate about it. He told this story that you heard today to the foundations and really moved them. So we'll be announcing that later this week, and I'll be obviously sending that to the board to let you know about that. But it's close to $1 million for the program. So we're very, very proud. And I want to thank John. John was instrumental in making sure that we received that funding. So next slide. Well, obviously during Trauma Month, and we honored our EMS partners during National EMS Week. So you might have seen some a billboard and other public recognition of the EMS professionals. We had some events, which I think is the next slide. Oh, no, it's Nurses Week is the next slide. We had obviously also celebrated Nurses Week. We just some pictures there and did a lot of wonderful events for our nurses to make sure we know how much they are appreciated here at ECMC. As you know, we always lead with nursing. Next slide. The mayor also came out, as did police and fire, to thank our nurses, and we're very grateful the mayor and police and fire did it. It meant a lot to the nurses. We haven't had a lot of opportunities to gather, so this was a really nice opportunity for us all to gather and receive for the nurses to receive the recognition of what they do in the community. We also had National Police Week. Again, recognition of our police force here at ECMC and all the great work that they do. As you know, they put themselves in harm's way. Many of our patients come in very sick, and these individuals are the ones to protect our staff as well as patients inside the building. They do a wonderful job. Next slide. We also honored a couple individuals during this month. Our Nurse Hero of the Month was Matt Petrzik, RN in behavioral health, and we had a little gathering for Matt and his colleagues, and then also Christine Bettinger, who's actually retiring, was Employee of the Month this past month. So these are again all the months in celebration. For the EMS, I want to mention is we do what's called Dogs in the Deck. It's an opportunity to just thank our EMS professionals, and we went down and had some conversations with EMS folks, and kind of brings our ER staff who obviously works regularly with the EMS individuals, and an opportunity for them to socialize. We also have our Brave and Snug program events. Later on, I'm going to have Andy talk a little bit about our new partnership under Snug, which is a nonviolence effort, and we'll talk about that in a little bit. Next slide. So we have been extremely busy. On May 6th, we actually had the highest patient census on record, 551 patients, and that was with a very normal discharge day. We had almost 70 discharges, which is about normal. Sometimes we have higher, obviously, sometimes we have a little lower, but it wasn't because we weren't discharging patients. So the hospital's been extremely busy, and it's obviously a testament to the great work that you saw in the videos, and that people are doing here, and the word being out. The new ER is all part and parcel of the Western New York's choosing us. And even as the COVID patients have gone down, our census is over 500 today. So we're continuing to be very, very busy. John will show you in a little bit. Our inpatient surgeries are down, and while we want to make sure we get those back up, right now it's been very helpful because we haven't needed those beds for all the individuals coming through the ER. That has led to us having a bed huddle twice a day, almost 7 days a week. They have been meeting on weekends too, and I want to thank Andy and Karen and Dr. Murray and Dr. Cloud and others who have been part of that bed huddle to make sure we safely move patients through the building. We also, as you know, started our window project again. That took some rooms offline, so that can, it's obviously a challenge, but we got to get it done, so it doesn't cost us any more money. And everybody's been working really cooperatively around that to make sure that we can get that project done. So with that, I'm going to turn over the next item here to Andy, who's going to talk a little bit about the Snug program. And we're very proud to be part of this, and the federal government has been working with us on that. So, Andy?
Thank you, Tom. So just real briefly, several months ago, we were approached by the New York State Division of Criminal Justice to consider working with the Snug program. If you remember, we started a BRAVE program probably about a year and a half ago, and BRAVE deals with trying to break the cycle of violence, and Snug, which is gun spelled backward, deals with trying to reduce violent crimes during the community. And so working with the Division of Criminal Justice, and also the transition with the grant used to be go through Back to Basics with Pastor Giles. We had a very orderly transition, and that staff has now been incorporated in ours. They actually are located at Millennium Collaborative Care, so we're able to repurpose that space. And it's been a wonderful collaboration, and I think as we start trauma season, I think the coordination between the BRAVE members and the Snug members, which we've seen over the last year and a half, has just really been very good collaboration. The goal of Snug is to work inside of the community, to work with individuals to help them see a different opportunity not to resort to violence. And hopefully we will see that. As you know, last year we had a very busy trauma season. Hopefully we will not have that this season. But these members, there's probably about 20 or so Snug members that we have on our payroll, are doing a wonderful job, and really excited to be part of ECMC, and really doing a lot of, I would say, critical work, and really the day I was out there, they had dealt with an individual that unfortunately had been shot, and to see the care. And so I think it dovetails just what we do every day. So just wanted to update you on the Snug program. Things are going well. Hopefully we can continue to reduce the violence within the community.
Okay, thank you, Andy. Jeffrey, do we have the statistics for the month? Okay, just very quickly, I'll talk a little bit about them, and then we'll turn it over to John to add. So yeah, obviously you can see we've had a very, very busy month. With our discharges obviously being above budget, our average length of stay a little higher than usual because of the severity of cases that we've had. Again, and you can see where the inpatients are down too. Emergency room visits are up. That's where that obviously conversion of admissions into the ED from the ED happened. And the outpatient is up significantly, but that's also because of all the vaccination efforts that we have been doing, and also testing. So those are up significantly. So this past month, John's going to talk about budget a little bit. We had some expenses higher than normal for the month, but we're continuing to track to our budget the last couple months. So we're going to continue to raise revenue, but obviously watch our expenses moving forward. So with that, John, I'll turn it over to you unless there's any other questions from the board.
Okay, not hearing any. I'll jump right in. Just a couple of additional highlights here. So as Tom mentioned, we're seeing now 2 months a little bit of signs of recovery, specifically in the volume. You can see here that, as Tom mentioned, inpatient is up. However, the inpatient surgeries are down about 11%. And what that means is that the cases that we are seeing are more medical in nature, which typically carry a lower case weight and thus lower revenue. So it does translate to some impact on our financial statements. But the good news, as you can see here, and as Tom mentioned, is that we're up on all outpatient areas, whether it's in outpatient surgery, at the ED visits, as well as the overall outpatient visits as a result of all of the vaccinations, testing, and whatnot. Next slide, please. Okay, just a couple of other highlights here that I think are worth mentioning. So average length of stay, it's red. We're not at our target yet, but it's remained steady. And this is really despite having seen some of the largest and highest census figures we've seen just over the last couple of months, especially in the COVID cases. So we're holding that steady with a path downward, which is what our goal is to really try to kind of bring that back down now that our COVID cases are being reduced. A couple other items here. I spoke about the case mix and the case severity, but the FTEs, again, a little bit higher than last month. That's been on purpose. We talked about this a bit last month. Not down at our budget, which is 3462 for the year, but that's been by design. Of course, managing through vacancies, adding where necessary, adding where we believe clinically necessary to be able to accommodate not only the census we've been seeing, but also in anticipation of trauma season coming, trying to add a little bit here and there as we build up into the summer. And so what does that mean? And what has that meant for the month of April, as Tom indicated? And if you can go to the next slide, Jeffra. Thanks. So it really was a similar month to March. A lot of volume related revenue, variance positive, volume related expense, supplies, staffing, and the like. But if you can see here, we ended the month at about $2.2 million operating loss, which is slightly behind our operating plan, about 600,000. We would have really made plan if it were not for a couple different areas of outlier expense that we did see this month. One, in health insurance claims. Those health insurance claims are for our employees. Typically that does move up and down through the year. Through 4 months, we're actually on the favorable side of health insurance claims, but this month in April happened to be a higher month than we had budgeted, primarily in pharmaceutical costs. So that just tends to pick up in the second quarter. The other expense area is bad debt reserve expense. So that's our reserve for uncollectible accounts. Again, typically that does move up and down. We have, at least in this month, seen a few accounts that are on the larger side, aging. And as we try to get insurance coverage for those or payments, we will, again, relook at those for reserve changes, and that may resolve those in the future. So it could be a timing difference, but we're going to just continue to monitor those. Those two items total about $600,000, which is really driving the variance for the month. Next slide. The other way. The other way, Jeffrey, sorry. Okay, thank you. So, excuse me, on a year-to-date basis, that brings us to about 15.9 million of operating loss, which is about an $8 million variance from plan. And the interesting thing, again, as we've talked about, when you look at the first 4 months, it really can be split up into the first two and the second set of 2 months. The first 2 months out of that $8 million variance, we had experienced about 7.5 million of that variance in the first 2 months. And again, recall that we had restrictions on surgeries for all of January, and again, ramping up into February. So the last 2 months, March and April, operating much closer to budget. March was better than budget, and then April here just slightly behind. So again, signs of recovery, but it will certainly take some time. Next slide. And yes, we can't forget about tracking our COVID-related costs. We still are incurring costs, lost revenue, mostly on the cost side the last couple of months. So you can see here the impact through April for the year of 2021, about 11 million, but that brings us to the total of about 108 million since the beginning of the pandemic. As you recall, we've only received about 62.8 million in relief, so more relief is needed. And banging that drum, obviously, with anyone who will listen to us, and will continue to do so. Next slide.
Hey, John, I'll just jump in real quickly, as you said, just to reinforce that for the board to that point. We have been, as John said, banging that drum, and we've been in regular contact with our federal representatives and the various organizations that we are members of, like America's Essential Hospitals and Haney's. There is approximately $24 billion left in appropriated but unallocated provider relief funding, and we are advocating strongly for its release. Tom was quoted in an article that Tracy Jury in Buffalo Business First published recently, and also earlier this week, actually late last week, we were contacted by the Wall Street Journal, and Tom was quoted in the article that the reporter published this week, and he was the only hospital administrator in the country quoted in the article about this very issue, where many organizations, including AHA, America's Essential Hospitals, and others are advocating very strongly with the federal government to not only release that remaining $24 billion for hospitals such as ours, but to in fact increase the amount of funding for the various financial difficulties we've all experienced, all the hospitals have experienced through the course of the pandemic. So I just wanted to throw that in there as well. Thank you.
Thanks, Peter. And the Secretary of HHS has recently been quoted and said that while they don't have a timeline and they have not yet said anything specific around releasing those funds, that they basically said they would be transparent in doing so, and also was quoted as saying that they won't leave safety net hospitals out, specifically quoted around safety nets. So we'll see, more to come on that. We're sitting with about 105 days cash on hand. Of course, that includes designated assets. The 105 is down slightly from last month. We do expect that, and we did expect that, specifically around the Medicare loan payback. One other update, the Paycheck Protection Program forgiveness process is underway. We were notified Friday that our application is being reviewed, so we're responding to additional information requests on that. it's that time of year. It's May. We are beginning our 2022 budget process. So not much to update today, other than we're gathering information. More to come on that, but it will be certainly a challenging year. Challenging for a couple of reasons. One, because last year was just such an unstable period from which to plan, but also because there's a lot of headwinds and certainly challenges ahead. So with that, John, I'll open the floor for any questions.
Thank you, John. One quick question. Are you going to be in a position at our next meeting to start to look at projections for the fiscal year ending?
Yes, we can do that.
That would be great.
Yeah.
Any other questions? Any other questions, John?
I was just gonna say a couple of the big bogeys out there are obviously that the funding, the provider relief funding. So I think we could probably, and we don't, the other problem with that, and the reason we're beating the drum so hard is they haven't even come out with how they're going to distribute that, John, right? I mean, there's no like formula for that or anything else.
No timing, no process, no application. Stuff.
Yeah, and then we also, have our PPP loan forgiveness out there that's not guaranteed. So there's a few things hanging out there a little bit, but we'll, we could run it with and run it without, with some of that stuff, and kind of, we'd have to guesstimate on the provider relief funding.
Right.
Okay, any other questions? Thank you, John. We'll go quickly to committee reports, finance, Mike Seaman.
Thanks, John. Again, I think we can see the light at the end of the tunnel finally. And you can see volumes increasing consistently over the last couple months. I think we're managing the COVID expenses as we should, and we're going to be relying hopefully on some of those federal dollars. And obviously trauma is going to be this summer, like always, where volume picks up. So I'm very confident with the management team that they'll continue to make the necessary changes to the budget, as well as keeping the bedside to our patients safe and healthy. So that's all I have to add.
Great, thank you, Mike. Buildings and grounds, Ron Bennett.
Yes, we had a short meeting this afternoon. And you can hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. The major thing that we're doing is finishing up the windows. That's the major project that's been going on. A bunch of minor things that are being taken care of. Was a quick meeting. One of the things that I thought was first time I've seen it is the campus grounds. The grounds crew has been lawn mowing and weeding campus wide, cleaning up the flower beds, and just making off-site upgrades to add to our beauty. I think that's great. I thought that was good. And other than that, things are moving along with the kitchen tray and the ceiling in the development. So looks like we're had a short meeting, but things are going well under our administration. Thank you.
Thank you, Ron. Andy or Jim Turner, any other updates relative to the windows and the roofing situation? Is that all according to plan? Back full-time and full-time plus?
Yeah, we started the window project, and it's been great coordination. Thanks to Jim and Mike Gaskowski and Al Carino and the nursing team for making sure we balance the rooms. But everything's going good. The roof is going good. So far, the first 2 weeks going good.
And you've had good weather.
We've had great weather in Buffalo.
Okay. Bishop Badger, HR, anything?
I'll give it to Joe, but one of the things that we were looking at is just recruitment, especially with CNAs. And so we're offering bonuses and some other things that we're doing, working with some of the colleges and high schools to try to get those numbers up. And so I'll let Joe take it from there if he has any other.
Yeah, thank you, Bishop. As many of you know, clearly there's an employment issue in Western New York, meaning it's hard to get entry-level positions into the organization. So we're coming up with ideas on how we transition people from our internal positions like environmental service to CNA jobs where they can find a career in healthcare. So we developed a program that we're going to train people and pay them for their time so that they don't have to choose between getting paid and advancing their career. So we're continuing efforts like that for the CNA programs. We're looking for bonuses, sign-on bonuses for CNAs, because in today's market, it is difficult to secure entry-level positions into healthcare, where we used to, I would say just 3 or 4 years ago, be able to pick and choose the entry-level positions into healthcare. The market has changed. So we have to devise grow your own kind of programs. And I think we are developing those and seeing some progress on those. Thank you, Bishop.
Questions for Bishop Badger and or Joe? Thank you both. On QI, Mike, I love your palm tree. I'm assuming you're not on Seneca Street.
No, I'm in my basement.
Okay.
Thank you, John. We had 3 different presentations at our QI meeting. The first one was radiology and imaging, presented by Dr. Drumsta. Then our second presentation was Apogee Hospitalist Services by Dr. Tada Kamala. And our third and final presentation was rehabilitation medicine with Dr. Levicki and Marie Johnson. And Dr. Levicki is the gentleman who you saw earlier in the video. He's been a busy guy. But that should all that information should be in your reports if you're looking for more details on it. That's it for me, John. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Any other questions? So before we adjourn, one of the conversations that we have had on an ongoing basis is when we should appropriately return to live meetings. And my gut feeling tells me it's soon, but I want to raise that with you all while we're before we adjourn this afternoon. Tom, what is at least the current status of the rules and regulations about social distancing, mask wearing, and is it possible, based upon your reading of the rules, at least at this moment?
Yeah, I think we can also do a hybrid approach, right? A lot of organizations are doing that. I was just on the Buffalo Niagara Partnership board meeting this morning, for example, and they were talking about doing a hybrid approach. So I think we could do that. Charlene, I'll turn it over to you on kind of room capacity and those types of things. If you can just kind of inform the board of where we're at in the building with regard to that.
Yeah, with our room capacity, really, it's not back to how many chairs we have in the room, but how many we can space appropriately. So we've been working in our room capacities, and some areas, even despite our previous room capacity, we can't even get up to 50% and keep people socially distanced. So we've been working, at the Smith Odd, we've gotten up to 40 people. The Zizzy area, we have at 25 right now, but it's because we have to put people at tables and then put people at the perimeter of the rooms. Regarding masks though, because we are a healthcare facility, everyone has to wear masks when they're in the facility at all times.
Okay, so let me ask the board this question, and that is, would anyone have an objection to our going to a hybrid model at this point for our next meeting? Anyone inalterably opposed to it? I see most people shaking their heads no. So we will try and do that. I promise we will go by the guidelines and the rules and regulations, at least as they exist at that moment. But count on some type of live meeting, whether it be hybrid or otherwise, for our next session. So Thanks, everybody. Unless there's anything for the good of the order, new and or old business. Does not appear to be any. I'd be happy to entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
Is there a second, Dr. Grimm? All in favor? I'm assuming everybody will say aye or raise your hand. So thank you all very much. Please stay safe. Have a great day. And thank you once again for your continued dedication and service to ECMC. Be well, everyone. Thank you.